I had never before played the last installment in the Greek mythology of the God of War saga, the forgotten and overlooked Ascension, which was released in 2013 for the PlayStation 3. After playing all the God of War games and finally reaching this one, I wondered, why didn't Ascension achieve the success of its predecessors? It's safe to assume that God of War Ascension wasn't to blame for its lukewarm reception among fans of the Spartan Warriors saga. Rather, there's no single culprit, and the game's lukewarm reception was a normal human experience, the boredom of the familiar and mundane. However, in this particular case of the God of War saga, it's curious because all, and I repeat, all of the games starring Kratos are sublime, even the two games featuring Kratos' father. In total, as of 2026, there are 10 games in the God of War saga. God of War 2005 for the PlayStation 2, God of War 2 2007 for the PlayStation 2, God of War Betrayal 2007 for mobile phones, God of War Chains of Olympus 2008 for PSP, God of War 3 2010 for PlayStation 3, God of War Ghost of Sparta 2010 for PSP, God of War Ascension 2013 for the PlayStation 3, God of War 2018 for the PlayStation 4, God of War Ragnarok 2022 for the PlayStation 4 and 5, and the latest God of War Sons of Sparta 2026 for the PlayStation 5. If we exclude the last two Kratos games set in the Norse mythology, the 7 titles set in Greek mythology were released over 8 years, 7 iterations with the same setting and gameplay, that evolved but never underwent substantial changes. That's not a bad thing. Mario Bros. And Call of Duty still have very similar gameplay, but the difference lies in the change of style and narrative setting. The God of War games between 2005 and 2013, in my opinion, were released too frequently, and even the most die-hard fans at the same time grew tired of the same thing, despite acknowledging and appreciating the quality each game offered. I believe that was one of Santa Monica Studios' mistakes in releasing the games so close together, and with God of War Ascension, the biggest misstep was continuing Kratos' story within Greek mythology, when in 2010, in my opinion, it was the perfect culmination of the vengeful odyssey against the Olympian gods. Kratos no longer had a purpose in that story. Zeus and the others were lifeless beings, and that's why the narrative of Ascension lacked the adrenaline and the objective that the other games displayed. God of War Ascension is a prequel set 6 months after Kratos due to the influence and manipulation of the god Ares unknowingly murdered his wife and daughter. Ascension takes place 10 years before the events of the first God of War game. Kratos finds himself confined in the prison of the damned, a penal colony where oath breakers are punished for their betrayals. Kratos' mission is to escape this prison by defeating the Furies, who ward it. And to be honest, the story of Ascension is quite lightweight. It lacks the narrative weight of the previous games, and being a prequel, it lacks the element of surprise that a sequel can promise. God of War Ascension was hampered by its story and by being released at the wrong time. It came after the third canonical God of War game, which had an excellent conclusion, and was released worldwide in the same year as the PlayStation 4, the year 2013. Aside from all of this and focusing on the game itself, God of War Ascension was, is, and it will be, an underrated because as a video game in terms of gameplay, graphics, scale, adrenaline and fun, the game is amazing. Ascension has all the right and familiar ingredients for an action adventure packed with adrenaline. The game's scale is colossal, making Kratos feel like a tiny ant fighting Herculean enemies. Add to that a magnificent soundtrack that, combined with the Spartans' bloody actions, makes the screen explode with emotion. The game lasts approximately 10 hours, which is sufficient. It has no unnecessary filler and is straightforward in what it wants to offer any player. It's regrettable that Sony didn't even bother to remaster it or include it in a complete saga edition alongside its predecessors, so that the game could be played by people who have no idea it exists. In my opinion, Ascension should have been a downloadable expansion adventure for God of War 3. This will have increased its exposure to new players and prevent it from being lost in obscurity due to its story, the lack of varied environments, and of course, the launch of the PlayStation 4, which unintentionally hammered the final nail into the coffin of God of War Ascension. This final adventure of Kratos in ancient Greece marks the end of a saga filled with successes in all its installments. A journey where every player, alongside Kratos, form a special bond and help the Spartan fulfill his vengeance, which, depending on each player's perspective, was justified or reprehensible, since for Kratos, the means don't matter if the objective is achieved. I felt somewhat melancholic playing Ascension. It's the last time we'll be able to play as this Kratos in an adventure, since the next two God of War games are completely different in their gameplay and personally didn't quite resonate with me. Don't get it mistaken, I think they are good games, but I prefer the old Kratos. But well, everything has a beginning and an end. Thank you, young and impulsive Kratos, for offering explosive fun. Thank you for your time and attention. I wish you all the best in life, success in your goals, and most importantly, infinite health.
Hey, listen!